Good morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, I want to welcome you here today. Thank you for joining me in my front yard on this amazingly beautiful morning here in Albuquerque. If you're not here and you're watching from someplace else, there's some of these mornings this time of year where I want to forget that it's almost winter. And I want to think that it's going to stay this way. And it is just so incredibly beautiful this morning. And we keep talking about how lucky we've been with the weather on Sunday mornings all year. It's been glorious. So thank you for bringing your love and your heart into this space. It's nice to see some faces I haven't seen for a while. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we have a beautiful day planned for you, and we're going to jump right in a moment, but I want to tell you about a little bit about my week, which is, as you have heard me talk about this over and over, Zephyr and I have a really hard time taking time off. We're terrible at it. And so we had a moment on Thursday when we realized we could run away from home for the day. And we did, and we got up really, really early and experienced the Taos Gorge and everything, all the colors changing up north, and had a beautiful, beautiful hike and a amazingly transformative meal. There's some of those meals, if you have those meals where you're like, oh my God, that was actually life-changing. So we had one of those, but what I also experienced was the sadness of seeing how low the water was in the gorge. The river is so low. And we ended up driving through Dixon, New Mexico, in the Penasco area right when they were doing a food delivery. And the amount of cars on the side of the road waiting for food was heartbreaking. And so here we are in the middle of all of this great change and great need, and all of these places where our hearts are getting called to be of service in all of the needs that are showing up in our communities. And I'm in this space of trying to figure out how to hold it all, how to hold all of the immense beauty while also holding all of the pain. And so here we are this morning. Nice to see you, Mel. There's some chairs also for anyone who still wants a chair. These ones up front are available, and I think there's one over there by Ralph. Also, I think that blue one, yes, that one's available. So thank you for being here and helping hold that space where we figure out how to maneuver these challenging times together. And we're just going to start with a little bit of prayer. So if you're willing to close your eyes with me and join me as we just anchor into this beautiful morning, recognizing the power and the presence of love and peace and wisdom, as we open ourselves to recognize that our hearts can be fully present, as we allow ourselves to transform and be transformed. And I just know that there is a wisdom moving in us today, allowing us to feel renewed and more available to whatever it is that we are called to participate in, whatever it is we're called to create, whatever it is we are called to heal. And I just know that it is no mistake that we find ourselves together on this particularly beautiful morning. And so I just let whatever it is that needs to come to the surface do so. I let the music move us. I let the presence of like-minded, conscious beings remind us that we're not alone. And I just know the spirit and the power of love is present here now, in all of the things that are changing. And I just let go, and I let it be. And so it is.
Don't worry.
Today, to prepare for our meditation, I've chosen a poem that reminds me of fall and the colors changing. Maybe you'll see it too. This is a poem called What I've Learned So Far by Mary Oliver. Meditation is old and honorable. So why should I not sit every morning of my life on the hillside looking into the shining world? Because properly attended to, delight as well as havoc is suggestion. Can one be passionate about the just, the ideal, the sublime, and the holy, and yet commit to no labor in its cause? I don't think so. All summations have a beginning. All effect has a story. All kindness begins with the sown seed. Thought buds toward radiance. The gospel of light is the crossroads of indolence or action. Ignite. Be ignited or be gone. Be ignited or be gone. And so we just take this sense of the gospel of light, and we allow the meditation to move us today.
This is a tune called Invitation. He's instantly going to become a drummer. It's so cool. Thank you.
Ah, music. I really, I hope never to take for granted the fact that we get these amazing guys every Sunday. Yay. Ah. So I have to admit that it's been fairly challenging recently to try and figure out what to talk about on a Sunday. It feels kind of relentless. Like, what the heck can I find in this time to bring some sort of sanity, to bring some sort of sense that there's something bigger going on, and I'm finding it challenging to keep on going and keep on trying to figure out something new to say. And so yesterday I was sat down and I was like, I have to decide, because I have to let you guys know what I'm going to talk about. I just have to decide. And so thankfully I've been doing this for a long time. I've been given a sermon at least 50 times a year for the last probably close to 14 years. And so I have a lot of material at my disposal. And I was scrolling through the file that has everything in it, and sometimes I don't know what's in that file because it's been a while. And I read the title and it said good news, and I was like, I need some of that. I wonder what I said about that. And so I opened it up, and I realized that this was the title of the first sermon that I gave for this particular community, coming out of a very, very challenging time in my life. And I was reading through the notes that I had written and the stories and things, and realized that I wanted to revisit this at this time. Because at the time I was traumatized. I lacked in trust in myself and in other people. I was having a hard time figuring out how to refine my voice. And I remember how actually like I was shaking just getting out in front of people the first time when this community was formed out of that experience. And I realized that at the time I was looking for some good news, because I had this experience that felt like, in a lot of ways, the end of a world, end of an identity, end of some part of my life. And at that time, I have to tell you, I could not imagine this place 2.5 years later or more, and where I am, and the life that I have been able to create because of that. And so this going back to to these notes was meaningful from the perspective of recognizing that the whole point of it was that we as human beings don't actually know what the good news and the bad news is. Like, we don't know, we don't have that information. So Kurt Vonnegut said, the truth is we know so little about life, we don't really know what the good news is and what the bad news is. And I find it so interesting because I think I know. I don't know. Any of you think you know what the good news is versus the bad news? How many of us spend so much of our time actually going, oh, that's good news, that's bad news. Oh, I see that, as good news. I see that as bad news. In fact, that is a lot of the evaluating we do as human beings. And so it's so interesting to be in this space where we have to realize that there's something bigger operating, and that we may not at any point in our lives know what the good news is or the bad news is. We don't know what's being changed. We don't know what's being transformed. We don't know what's really moving. And so I was thinking about it this morning as I was thinking deeper about this beautiful life that Zephyr and I have created, that is more in alignment with who we are and what we want to create, that has been born out of the flexibility of this community and the changes in my life. And I have to say that at the time, if I had realized that the best news about all of this change in my life, at least from my perspective right now, is that I have like one meeting every month and that's it, instead of 9,000 meetings every week, that my life was just one meeting after another. Like, if I could have told myself then that you will not have to go to that many meetings ever again in your entire life, I think I would have rejoiced at that moment, right? So the joy for me is the joy of realizing that even in this time where obviously there's so many things that need to be transformed, that there is also obviously a mystery that's behind it, that's operating, that we don't quite know yet how it's all going to unfold, but there's a beauty in it, in the not knowing. So there's an old story that comes from, it's an oral tradition out of the Middle East, and this story is about a painter and a poet and a critic who were crossing the desert together. And so one night they had time to kill, and they decided that they were going to spend their time describing the camel that was accompanying them. And so the poet took 10 minutes to describe the animal's nobility in all of these beautiful verses. And in a few rapid strokes, the painter offered his friends a drawing. And finally, the critic entered the tent, and he came out 2 hours later, by which time they were all annoyed at how long the critic had been taking. And the critic said, well, I tried to be quick, but I discovered flaws in the animal. It doesn't run, it's uncomfortable, it's ugly. And he handed his friends a wad of pages entitled The Perfect Camel, or How God Should Have Made the Camel. And I think it's funny that the story feels so true about how we relate to the things that happen in our lives, right? We are so critical. We say, well, this is the way that God should have done that. This is the way we think that this should have gone. This is what this is really what would have made me happy. And when we really are willing to step back far enough, we can start to see that all of those things that we thought were misdirected or shouldn't have gone the way they should have fit somehow in this bigger picture that we couldn't see at the time. And that there is good news even in the midst of all of the breakdowns. So some of you know I'm a big fan of Paul Simon. And I love these words that come to me often when I'm in the middle of something that feels like a breakdown. And he says, and hey, breakdowns come and breakdowns go. So it's what you're going to do about it. That's what I want to know. And so we're in the midst of obvious breakdown, right? Like, obviously the systems that are around us are breaking down, and what is being revealed is all of these places where we're being asked to make sure that our eyes and our vision are on what is possible and what is unchanged and unchangeable, instead of getting pulled constantly into the melodrama. So I've been rereading the book Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and I don't know. There are some books that if you go back to them over and over, you still are able to get deeper wisdom from. And I was moved the first time I read it, and I believe I'm probably on seventh or eighth reading right now, and I keep finding these places where I'm seeing what he's saying in a deeper way. And what he says about all of this is about finding this place where we're not attaching who we are to what's going on in the world. And so what he says is, if you want to be happy, you have to let go of the part of you that wants to create melodrama. This is the part that thinks there's a reason not to be happy. You have to transcend the personal, and as you do, you will naturally awaken to the higher aspects of your being. In the end, enjoying life's experience is the only rational thing to do. You're sitting on a planet spinning around in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Go ahead, take a look at. You're floating in empty space and a universe that goes on forever. If you have to be here, at least be happy and enjoy the experience. You're gonna die anyway. Things are gonna happen anyway. Why shouldn't you be happy? You gain nothing by being bothered by life's events. It doesn't change the world, you just suffer. There's always going to be something that can bother you if you let it. So as I read this again from the perspective of where I stand right now, I realized that there's this space in which we all want to participate in creation from the perspective of being bothered by it, instead of realizing that we are here instead to participate in it in a different way. That we get to be moved by it, transformed by it, we get to create with it, but our job is not to be bothered by it. Oops. Uh-oh. Are we okay? Man down. Okay. As long as everyone's okay, we're good. All right. Our job is not to be bothered by it. So there's this sense, right, in which we are called to participate fully without being bothered by what is happening in this way that disturbs our peace. And I have to tell you, this is challenging, and I'm not there. But this is from this perspective that being bothered by it doesn't really change it. And all of our fear, or all of our annoyance, or all of that really doesn't do anything unless we let it do what Mary Oliver talked about earlier, which is ignite us. Unless we allow it to cause us to be transformed, unless we allow it in, and then are able to let that sense in which we're not here to judge it. Instead, we're here to move with it and help it move and help it transform and help it change directions, is the perspective in which we really encounter our power. So I have to tell you that one of the reasons I had to run away from home this week and take a break was that it just gets overwhelming. And it just gets to this place where it's like, if I don't find a little bit of space here, I'm not sure I'm going to be any good for anybody, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to bring what I really want to be bringing. And so we found ourselves actually in hiking to Italiano's Canyon up in the ski basin in Taos. And we were the only ones out there because it was really early and it was still cold. And it was so beautiful. And we got out there, and we'd been hiking for a while, and there was this sense in which I had that experience of like, ah, no one knows about the news out here. No one knows about politics. No one cares about what happens tomorrow. There's just this sense in which there's this spaciousness that there's something bigger going on. And it was so healthy and good for me to get that distance. And so it was great to come back and read these lines again from Michael Singer, because he says, to get some distance from this, you first need to get some perspective. Walk outside on a clear night and just look up into the sky. You're sitting on a planet spinning around in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And though you can see a few thousand stars, there are hundreds of billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy alone. In fact, there's estimated there are over 1 trillion stars in the spiral galaxy. And that galaxy will look like one star spinning to us if we even see it. And you're standing on a little ball of dirt and spinning around one of those stars. And from that perspective, do you really care what people think about your clothes and your car? Do you really need to feel embarrassed if you forget someone's name? How can you let these meaningless things cause you pain? If you want a decent life, you had better not devote your life to avoiding psychological pain. You had better not spend your life worrying about whether people like you or whether your car impresses people. What kind of life is that? It is a life of pain. And you may not think you feel that pain often, but you really do. To spend your life avoiding pain means it's always right behind you. And so here we are in this world in which there is good news and bad news and everything in between all of the time. And here we are thinking our job is to be constantly evaluating whether we think this is going the direction we think it should or not, over and over and over. And that's what we do. And all we're doing is perpetuating these cycles of pain. And all we are doing is not remembering what our real place is in all of it. And so I just recognize that we have this opportunity together as we get into probably not less change, but more change coming up. Anyone feel it? It's not just the season, but it feels like we're getting closer to a lot more moving all at once. That it's a really good time to start participating in realizing that we're not here just to evaluate whether this is good news or bad news, but instead to hold a vision that there's something bigger happening that we're participating in. And so I have one last little story, and this is a story about a little wave, and it was bobbing along in the ocean, and it was having a grand old time. And it was enjoying the wind and the fresh air until it noticed that the other waves in front of it were crashing against the shore. And the little wave said, "Oh my God, this is terrible. What's going to happen to me?" And so then along came another wave, and it sees the first wave looking grim, and it says to him, "Why are you so sad?" And the first wave says, "Well, you don't understand. We're all going to crash. All of us waves are going to be nothing. This is so terrible." And so the second wave says, "Actually, no, you don't understand. You're not a wave. You are part of the ocean. You are part of the ocean." And so this is that story that reminds us that all of the things that we think are possibly bad news are also places in which we are being asked to remember that we're part of something bigger, that there's something bigger going on, and that we have the power to move and change in that, and that we have the power to remember that we are bigger than any of the problems or the bad news that seems like it shows up, and that we have a resilience and a space of possibility in us that knows how to move in this. And so I think that was a sign that I should stop talking. I think it was Spirit's a little joke on me. So yes, if you didn't see that, all of my papers fell on the ground because there was just this tiny, beautiful little gust. And we're going to anchor in some prayer. So I'm going to invite the band to come up because we're going to sing into our prayer. And as we prepare the way for that, I'm just going to invite you to think maybe about something in your life that you have decided is bad news. And we're going to hold the space that there's something bigger than the bad news happening, that there's something more moving, and see if we can allow Spirit to help us today to find some more peace.
Lifts us high, heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer lifts us high, it heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high, it heals us, sustains us, and sets us free.
So our prayer of love today is a prayer of remembering that there is something bigger going on. Everywhere we look, there's more than meets the eye. There are seen and unseen things moving and changing and aligning in every direction. There's transformation happening. There's creation happening. There are things coming to the surface so that they may be seen clearly, so that they may be healed, so that they may be truly transformed. And I just recognize that there is something moving in us today that allows for us to bring that bigger perspective to absolutely everything in us and around us, so that we may bring our most powerful and creative selves to whatever it is that we get called to, whatever it is that moves in us. And I just know that Spirit knows what it is doing. It knows how to bring things together, and it knows how to make things fall apart. And it knows this bigger place of wisdom is available in all of it. As we notice all of the things that call us to deeper awareness. And so I'm just grateful for all of the news, for all of that which is changing, all of that which catches our attention, because I know that Spirit is present in it. And I allow myself to be transformed. And I just know that truly it is no mistake that we find ourselves on this particular planet at this time. And so I just bring my full heart to it. And I know that that is enough. And I let it be. And so it is.
Lifts us high, it heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high, it heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love we can do a little samba, and you're welcome, to get up and dance and stuff. 'Cause, how often do you get a chance to dance now? You know what I'm saying? Let's take it away, gentlemen. Jenny?
How fun. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. I'm so grateful that you joined us this morning. I'm also grateful for all of the continued love and support that we've received as a community, especially during these interesting times. So if you would love to support us, keeping the music going and all of that, we have baskets hanging in the trees. And there's also a place on our website, onespiritualcenter.org, where you can make a contribution, and we really appreciate all of that support. Also want to remind you that every month as a community, we volunteer together at the Roadrunner Food Bank. So on the fourth Saturday of the month, we will be there from 11 to 2 volunteering. And if you are able to join us, we would love to have you. Also, the weather is changing, isn't it? It's really interesting when you sit long enough, it changes. So here comes the wind. But please help continue praying for good weather on Sundays, because that'll keep us going for as long as possible out here. Also, please just continue to, I'm grateful for everyone being so responsible with masks and social distancing, and I don't have to scold anyone, which is great. Because as you know, our case count is going up in New Mexico. So please be safe and take care of yourselves. And please let me know if I can support you. I've been helping. I helped a couple people get COVID tested this week, some elders in our community. So please let me know if there's anything I can do to support you in that, because it's challenging in the first place, and then if you're not feeling well, it's even more challenging. So please let me know if I can be of assistance. And I believe that is all I have to share with you today. So let us sing. Last blessing to sing to one another.
Oh